So, some recent business deals under the Trump administration have left some lawmakers questioning whether the U.S. is sliding into socialism.
Those deals include the government's new 10% stake in Intel. For more on the Trump administration's move into American companies, we're joined by Washington correspondent Drew Petrimo. And Drew, there are signs the administration is interested in doing more of this, which years ago would have made Republicans' hair go on fire.
Yeah, this is just another instance where it shows that President Trump doesn't play by the rules of traditional breakdown of right-left politics. In this case, let's go back and talk a little bit about Intel. What happened with Intel? During the Biden administration, there was a bipartisan piece of legislation that said Intel was making its chips overseas. We're going to give Intel money to come make chips in the U.S., even though the company doesn't think that's such a great idea. Trump comes in and he says, I don't like this arrangement. The taxpayers are basically just giving you money and you're using it to expand your business and do better, and we don't get anything back from it. So he says the taxpayers are now going to take a 10% stake in the company and can reap some benefit if Intel does well. That's a big if. Intel has not been doing great as a company. And that's where you hear the complaints from conservatives and Republicans and even some left of center pro-business types. They say intervening in the market like this to prop up a business like Intel that has been struggling distorts the market, and over time is a negative incentive on the type of innovation that would make a company like Intel profitable.
So Republicans see this as a part of or a trend under the Trump administration to sort of insert the federal government into corporate America, if you will. Let's take a look at some other deals that have sort of come under this same criticism that we may be sliding towards socialism. There is a 10% stake in Intel. We told you a couple weeks ago about Nvidia and AMD agreeing to pay the government 15% of sales revenue from China. That allowed the company to sell chips to China. And we also know the government gets a golden share of U.S. steel in the Nippon Steel acquisition deal. Let's take a sort of 35,000-foot view of this before we move even farther. What is socialism, and does the Trump administration getting stakes in American companies meet that definition of socialism?
Well, sometimes socialism is in the eye of the beholder, but technically the definition is state-owned or collective ownership of the means of production. The most purest form of it that you might see in the U.S. when you think about it is the post office. This is an organization that is owned by the state and delivers a service. Of course, there are private sector competitors, which make it a little different, but that is the general idea behind it. There are also kind of some mixed socialistic features in the U.S. economy. Think about healthcare, especially when it comes to healthcare for elderly people. Basically state or collective ownership of the means of production. Now, this is a form of it, where this is a 10% ownership. And there are big questions about how much influence the U.S. government would have on Intel and its competitors. You have to think, if I'm another business thinking about doing business with Intel, and I see that the administration now favors this, there's a U.S. government involvement in this, can I win favor with the Trump administration by partnering up with Intel? And again, does that distort the market and cause people to make decisions that don't make sense by the shareholder, but maybe the CEO could stand to benefit?
So some Republicans are not very happy with this. We have sound from two of them, Kentucky's Rand Paul and North Carolina's Tom Tillis. Let's play those back to back.
Where is the United States of America adding fundamental value to your business? If we are adding fundamental value to your business, I think it's fair for Donald Trump to think about the American people. I mean, one of those issues was we give hundreds of billions of dollars to universities, and they keep the patents. Don't you think America should get a stake in the patents, that we finance the research? We give the money. I mean, if it was commercial, we surely would get a piece of these patents. Lockheed Martin makes 97% of their revenue from the U.S. government. They are basically an arm of the U.S. government. They make exquisite munitions. I mean, amazing things that can knock a missile out of the air when it's coming towards you. But what's the economics of that? I'm going to leave that to my Secretary of Defense and the Deputy Secretary of Defense. These guys are on it, and they're thinking about it.
Clearly, that's Howard Lutnick, a man who very much likes the idea of doing this. Now we can go to those full screens from Rand Paul and Tom Tillis. And here's what Rand Paul has to say. If socialism is government owning the means of production, wouldn't the government owning part of Intel be a step towards socialism? And then Tom Tillis, I don't care if it's $1 or $1 billion stake, that starts to feel like a semi-state-owned enterprise a la CCCP.
Of course, a reference to
Russia.
Russia.
Yes.
So where do we go from here then? We know Congress is going to come back into session. Is this going to be an argument that continues, or is this sort of kind of a case-by-case thing that the Trump administration looks at?
Well, I think Congress is going to face a lot of questions from reporters. The big question is, will Congress or any of the market players try to take this up in the courts? I think in the Trump administration, with his willingness to attack companies online and use regulation and other government policies to go after companies, I think there is some fear in the business world of maybe filing a lawsuit and challenging the legality of this. And you also see that in the Republican Party. Yes, Tom Tillis and Rand Paul are open to criticizing the president, but Tom Tillis is retiring, and Rand Paul has been a frequent critic. There is not broad-based criticism of this type of policy of the Trump administration from Republicans. If Kamala Harris was president, it would be apocalyptic.
Yeah. We should just say Bernie Sanders likes the idea.
He does.
Which tracks.
Yeah.
Just more proof that the changing nature of politics right now and how President Trump just doesn't play by the normal rules.
All right. Drew, thank you very much. We'll see you next
Drew.
hour.
Appreciate it.